Welcome to the All Things Geekery podcast. I'm your host, Detached.
Hey guys, and I'm Victus.
Well guys, I'm pretty sure you all know the biggest thing that has hit the gaming industry in about the last 4 to 6 days, and that is E3. And yeah, you guessed it, we're getting ready to do a big review on Victus and I's favorite portions of all of the conferences. We're going to break everything down and let you guys know what we liked and basically what we didn't like. And there was a lot of both.
A lot of both. To start off with, don't know why they do it, but every year EA likes to come out the box and kind of do their show first, unlike with everybody else.
How do they get the front seat almost every year?
I don't know if this is like the front seat or the seat you don't want, like the nosebleed section.
They pay somebody. They've got to.
Kick off the show. And it wasn't a good kickoff.
No, it was terrible.
Yeah, they didn't bring the caliber of games to play that we are used to from EA. I mean, they've kind of been fumbling since some of the last couple of games. The drama from Battlefront and loot boxes and everything. So I mean, they came out, and we already knew it was on the way. It's been out, or it's been talked about. Battlefield 5.
Meh.
And yeah, and that's kind of how it was the next iteration from Battlefield 1 to now we've jumped 4 games to Battlefield 5, going into World War II, and of course it's had its own controversy. So they had a lot about it, and it's probably the one. They kicked out that one off first, had announced a new battle royale for it. But for me, it was all about Anthem, and that was really what they revealed at this conference and what everybody's been wanting to know more about ever since the reveal trailer is, what is this game, and is it a Destiny killer?
I won't say it's a Destiny killer with Forsaken coming out at the end of this year, but I will say that Anthem looks to be a huge contender for any shooter-looter out there. I think the idea of Anthem and the way they're going about it is amazing. And I think EA is trying to go about it the right way. And a few episodes ago, I even mentioned that this particular publisher was one of those that looked out at some of these other game developers and saw the big mistakes that were going on with some of these shooter looters and other games that were basically destroying some of the community, and people were just going outright in tangents across the things that these developers were doing. And I think EA kind of stepped back, looked at their drawing board, and said, hey, I think we just need to pause on Anthem because, it's a huge AAA game. It's going to be one of their big money makers, or hopefully it will. I know EA's had some trouble. The Battlefield 5 I could care less about. I'm done with the Battlefield games. They have run it into the ground. The story is done. That's all I have to say about Battlefield is, really, that's all I've got for it. There is no steam, emotion, nothing left in that game that they could, I think, give the community that would just be like a shot in the arm to revive it. I think it's done. I really do. Now, there's probably a lot of people out there that will, slap you in the face and go, what are you talking about? It's one of the most amazing games ever, because they love it. And that's great. There's a huge community behind it, but it's just not my forte. And I don't care for that style of shooting game.
Yeah. I mean, it's always been, and will continue, or it will continue to be that iteration of shooting game that raised right up there, and it's always been in tangent with Call of Duty. Although it seems like Call of Duty's pulling back, going more just pure multiplayer, and Battlefield is at least incorporating some story, some good story, and it may even be good story in the next game. So, I mean, we'll see how it turns out and if they pull off, and they're trying to dip their toes in the battle royale scene. Everybody's getting on board with that, so we'll see if that gains any ground, if it actually is warranted. But I mean, right there with you on Anthem, I'm excited for it just because it's a new the new aspect, it's appealing in what they've sold it about. Um, I hope the story doesn't go the way of what we've seen like Horizon Zero Dawn,
Yeah,
in that its civilization existed, died, and then is reborn. I kind of seen it going that way. I hope not. I hope this is something completely different than what we've seen. Don't even relate it to the current world as it is. This is be in a different world, whatever. However they pull it off, just be different.
yeah, I do.
Story wise.
Story wise, yes, I do like what BioWare said. Is they wanted to create a game that basically gives the player an environment that changes every time they come to it. So it's something new that they see. So to me, that sounds like there's going to be some kind of natural living of this environment that has kind of an organic change to it. Maybe the plants, the trees, maybe there's different seasons that the players will get to see inside the game. That's not just a static, when you know, go to a specific planet, it's always going to have sandstorms or it's always going to have rainstorms. Maybe there's a natural progression within that planet. That would be a cool feature to see, and I think make a little bit more of a dynamic story front as you're playing.
Yeah, completely agree. And we got to see more of that. We saw a little bit of gameplay during the reveal trailer last year, and we saw so much more gameplay this year, and the division of the classes and how they're unique to each one. I really, really hope there's a good RPG depth to each class, either via skills, if they have them, or if they, for some reason, chose not to go depth on those, you have accompaniment gear.
Yeah,
Maybe both.
well, I would really like to see both. Like you said, I would like to see the RPG factor come in. I would like to see if they're going to make a specific class, you know, a tank build, a healing build, whatever their deal is, that they're going to go with these suits. They did talk about how the suits are going to be extremely customizable, and from the trailers that I've seen and what they did preview as far as the multiplayer goes, they showed a few different variations. They showed some larger suits with definite heavier weaponry on it versus some of the smaller, more sleek suits that seem to be agile and were able to get in quicker and do littler damage, but they could evade and they could fly faster than some of these bigger suits. So I think if they come in and they give the players the option to customize the suits, do upgrades, change their weaponry, give them some different abilities that they can customize as well, I think you're gonna have a very happy customer base with a game that is as cool looking as Anthem's gonna be.
Yeah, yeah, and with that, they nail the story and they nail the development of the character, and that can hold a lot of people. But then it's all about the end game, and also the progression of, there's constantly got to be new gear, especially for customizable. We can't hit rehash of stuff, and if you do it, you can mix it up enough to where it always seems new. You always go, oh yeah, just got a new piece of gear. This feels good,
So
even if
you're
it's a slight
saying
increase.
they shouldn't reskin things like Bungie does.
They shouldn't reskin, yes, and just leave stuff the same. But they should always be a progression. And we'll see come the very busy date of February 22nd, 2019, if they
That
can
is
actually pull it off.
not far away at all.
No, it's not.
We are getting
Although
ready
been pushed back, but yeah, it's not far away.
Yeah, it has been pushed back, but still, we're getting ready to go into July. There's basically 6.5 months for them to get this game prepped, ready, and be able to be delivered to the doorstep of the customers, and not have a partial game that is playable, but yet it's not delivered with what they said is going to be delivered. Now, EA is not known for that per se. When they release games, they do release pretty good games. But for the most part, BioWare has not had a good track record over the last couple of years. I would say probably 5 years with their games. Their games have been a little shoddy at best.
Yeah, especially when they let other people. It sounds like they're really becoming hands-on with this one.
Yeah.
So I have hope that come that date, we'll have at least a polished game when it hits.
Polished, buffed, bow wrapped. I'm planning on pre-ordering the game. I love shooter looters, and I do kind of have high hopes for this game. I don't think it's going to be a replacement for Destiny, especially after seeing Forsaken, but I think it's going to be a big contender. So I'm very anxious to see what they do with it, how it looks. I love stories, so I hope the campaign is good.
Yeah, me too. And we'll see. So, ending on that, moving into our next conference was Microsoft, and I gotta say about the entire conference itself, it was really evenly paced throughout the entire way. They had lull moments of when they brought in and announced all their indie games, but it was, some people call it a safe conference. I don't think so. They really nailed their big ones.
Yeah, I don't think it was safe. I think they were consistent.
Agreed. And that's the word I was going to use, was consistent throughout the entire way. There was no lulls, which we'll talk about a bad lull later in the podcast. But hitting the ground running. I mean, within the first couple minutes, you're seeing a trailer which we didn't know what's happening in this trailer. It's very, very naturally, and opens up, and finally you get in the trailer and it shows, all of a sudden, wait, those are Marines. Those are UNSC Marines. And then boom, there's Master Chief and the announcement of the next Halo game, Halo Infinity.
I will say the crowd kind of went wild when I saw this, but I'll say my personal opinion for this is I'm done with Halo. I've been done with Halo for a long time. I'm going to leave Master Chief at his final resting place of Halo 3, which is the last true Halo that was made. 4 and 5 do not count. They are terrible. And if you have other words to say, then drop them in the comments and we'll have a chat.
So for those of us that had actually played through those two games and somewhat enjoyed them, I'm looking forward to it because not so much. Well, I'm looking forward to it because I think they are realizing that they need to come back, and people were calling this out during when that was revealed. It's like I felt very like my first reveal of Halo 1 during that trailer. Now, whether they keep that emotion going into the game itself when they actually, reveal something besides the cinematic trailer, I mean, we'll see. Yeah. But that's all we saw. We saw a cinematic trailer.
We saw
Halo
game
Infinity
engine.
is done.
That's it.
Yeah.
And here's the one biggest failing point of Halo in 6, basically, is 343 Industries. Terrible. They are awful at story writing. They are not consistent with making their plots run gambit across one another. You can't tie anything together because they don't know how to write a story, and they need to just quit. There, I'm done.
Okay, let me have that soapbox back. Thank you. So, I mean, people were excited about that, and then they went into a couple of other going to be multi-console games. There's no doubt about it. Some surprising announcements that were announced during the Microsoft conference. You had, we knew it was coming. Or actually, they announced Just Cause 4. I think it wasn't announced before that.
Yeah, I think there was a snippet that was released before E3.
Was there? Okay.
But this was the big reveal, which...
Yeah, reveal the gameplay and the kind of the story, a little hint of the story about it. Game that shocked me, I haven't played it any all, but Devil May Cry 5. I know there's a fan following to that, but the trailer really got me hooked on the personalities of it. I like I said, I've never played the other games, but I know about the game.
I know about the game. So. I have played the first 2, and they're cool, don't get me wrong, but Again, not one of my favorite game genres, but the trailer and the graphics and the story of Devil May Cry 5 looks pretty amazing. So I think overall, like you said, Microsoft did a good job with their bringing some of the bigger games to the table and saying, hey, look at what we did. And then they did an okay job consistently with their indie games and some of their smaller titles. I would say Devil May Cry 5 is not a large AAA title, but it's not a small title either.
Yeah, I completely agree on that. And then they even showed more of Crackdown 3, which people... I know there's people excited
They are.
that the... can't think of his name now, but it's officially confirmed he's in the game.
I know who you're talking about, but I can't think of his name.
Everybody knows who we're talking about.
Yes.
We'll figure it out later in the podcast.
If you guys know who we're talking about, then drop his name in the comments when you guys listen to this. Let us know.
So, they showed more of that. I wonder how much they paid these companies to say, hey, reveal all your trailers during our conference, even though you're going to have a conference later. So that you saw Shadow of the Tomb Raider, you saw Kingdom Hearts 3, which I'm excited that's going to be on Xbox.
I'm excited for Kingdom Hearts 3. I loved the first two. Amazing games, crazy fun to play, and this one looks even better from a story and character base, and the fighting in the game looked really freaking cool.
Yeah, it looks in all ways an improvement over the last two games. But the games in that series, Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, besides all the remixes and all that, it looks every way, incorporating all the Disney stuff into it. I'm super excited about it. It's going to be a either day one or soon after day one purchase for me, because I do love that series. So of all the multi-console games, I think that's the one I was most excited for. Well, besides our next one that we're going to talk about, or two. But yeah, it was one of the most ones I was excited about. Do have to call out, I'm pretty sure the Gears community, for one, in this order, cried out in joy, had a heart attack of fear, and then cried out in joy in that order during the reveal that happened.
Pretty sure there were some brain aneurysms that happened in that moment as well. Yeah, Gears 5, I did not realize that they were planning on making a Gears 5 because I quit playing after the first three. I never picked up the fourth one to play it, so I don't even know how that story progression continued. And here's the funny thing is both me and you are playing our backlog right now. We're playing a lot of other games, and one of the games that is on my console is just kind of sitting there, and I always scroll past it, is Gears 4, and I've not wanted to start it because I kind of forgot how the last one ended before that.
Yeah. I myself haven't played Gears 4 now. Of course, I've gone and read the story about Gears, and I've always enjoyed the games when I got into them, and I'm excited for the community because Gears 5 was announced. One person did call out, I've seen it mentioned areas where it said Gears of War 5 was announced, and I don't think that's it. I think it's now just Gears 5.
I think it's just Gears. Yeah. I think it's just Gears. I haven't seen anything on any of the social media or any of the other big sites like The Verge or Mashable or any of those guys. Any of those titles that they've put out or written articles on, it's just been Gears 5.
Yep. And that's how they sold it on the stage, was Gears 5, which may hint to how the story is going to play. The war's been over for a while. So, I mean, we saw a little bit of kind of trailer-ish gameplay that was revealed. It looks like it's going to start off with a good premise. I hope they deliver on it for the sake of the community. And then I'll of course get around to playing it sometime. I was excited about that.
Yeah, I will end up getting it. I mean, what game basically haven't we bought over the last 5 years? We've put a lot of stock into the game realm lately.
Yep.
So there's definitely games that we'll end up purchasing. Gears 5 being one of them. We probably need to play Gears 4 together so that we can, kind of catch up on the story.
Yeah, probably. Actually know what's going on once we get to it.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea. I think. I think.
Yeah.
I think.
And then probably now comes, I think, the coolest reveal of the conference. People may say that's Xbox fanboy talking or whatever. I think it was a great reveal of the game itself, and that was Cyberpunk 2077.
Dude, Cyberpunk 2077 stole the show, if you ask me. It really did. Cool
Especially
concept for a game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and we saw, I can't remember when that first trailer out, at least 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when it was hinted at, that first like cinematic trailer that was a couple seconds long, and everybody's been talking about it. It's like, where's this? Where is it coming this year? People were really hoping, and then it happened.
I thought the project got ixnayed, honestly, because I think it's been at least 3 years since we've seen anything from this company.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the last thing they worked on was Witcher that we know of, 'cause
Right.
it's Project Red. So, but yeah, great reveal. For one, they in that reveal released, I don't know how many hundreds of copies of Witcher 3 free to the community that figured out that entire sequence was just game codes.
Yeah, it was
So,
ridiculous.
wow.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
But, kind of ending on that note was great. It showed the world that we will start to see with Cyberpunk. Very, what I've seen some people refer to, and I completely agree. It's a Deus Ex meets Mass Effect.
I would completely
vibe
agree
to
with
it.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very vibrant world colors. And again, this is going to be a narrative-driven RPG, so I'm excited about that. I love narrative-driven games, and I'm in this 80s, 90s retros kick right now with all the colors, so all the neon of everything in that game just was like, okay, I don't care what the game is. I want it because of that right there.
Yeah, and it has it because it just comes off as that appeal, a futuristic, 80s feel to it, with the whole, hacking and how it's played there, and the vibe of it. So it'll be exciting once we actually get to see. It looked like that was gameplay engine trailer.
I think it was.
It
Maybe
looked like
wrong,
that,
but I think it was.
but I don't know if that was confirmed or not. But when we actually do get to see gameplay, I hope it's just a knock out of the park for all those that have been excited for it. For Project Red, I know they're going to deliver. They've delivered so far on the games they make, and I have no doubt they'll deliver on this one when it comes time.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of people that are excited about Cyberpunk, me being one of them. So that'll definitely be a game that is an investment for sure. Do we know when it's coming out? I don't remember seeing a date.
I don't think they announced a date yet.
Okay.
If anything, it's February 22nd, 2019.
Yeah.
So
the big release.
Beginning
Beginning of next
June
year.
19th, June 2019 is what is saying. So
Dang, we've got an entire year to wait.
Entire year. But in that time we'll get to see gameplay and learn more about it, the story, what it involves. So
there was one other game that they announced that brings back boyhood memories for me, and that is Battletoads.
No, you had to get that in there.
If you guys have never played Battletoads, rewind the clock to about 1993 and go look up some YouTube videos of Battletoads. It was the strangest, weirdest mix of basically Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but not, and better.
It does hold the record for one of the hardest maps ever in a game.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Well, at least reviewed by several YouTubers and bloggers out there. If you go across Battletoads, one of the end levels of that game is labeled as one of the hardest ever.
Well, I just give myself props because I beat that game when I was a kid.
and that's huge. Kind of hats off to those that stuck around. I hope I hope they do good at it. It's going to be interesting to bring that type of. I mean, they've done it so far. Side-scrolling's Donkey Kong's come back and nailed the side-scrolling. I hope Battletoads comes back and really uses modern technology, but is able to be side-scrolling. Who knows? All we saw was Battletoads, so it might be free roam, or it might be, we don't know. We just know it's coming.
It's coming. Huge fan of the side-scrolling games. Another one, real quick, for the fans of side-scrollers was Ori and the Will of the Wisps. That's coming in 2019 as well. If you guys never played the first one, it is ridiculously hard, but it is a beautiful game. The developers did an amazing job of keeping the old classic side-scroller, but also giving it depth with some 3D perspective. So there's things in the background that overlay as you're moving, and the characters, the story, all of it was just very, very well done, but extremely hard. And I think that was kind of the appeal, was going back to the old school days when we were kids. We got these hard games that we used to play, and it was absolutely no problem for us to sit in our room for 15 hours and play Mega Man and Mario and all these others. And it seemed to be no problem at all. And now as we become old men, we have a very hard time playing these old side-scrolling games.
And hats off to Ori for being able to pull off and being a success, because I've never heard a bad thing about. I mean, I personally haven't played it, but in my reviews and talking to people about it, talking to you about it, I haven't heard a bad thing about that game. I absolutely 100% agree that it is a beautiful game. It's well done. It has a good story to it, in what it has. So I firmly believe that they'll do good on the next one. And I hope they incorporate more elements of side-scrolling to be a true successor. You always need to have something new to expand upon into that.
Yeah, I hope the side-scrolling continues to be successful. I hope the companies that are bringing them out are able to kind of keep up with the new standards that are coming out with the new systems and just what the community is wanting. The big AAA games are amazing. The worlds and the characters and the game time and the grind, we're both completionists. We love the grind of a game. And we were talking about this just a few days ago. Some of our clan members and some of our friends that we play with don't know what a true MMO grind is. I don't know why I'm throwing this in here, but you guys out there that have played MMOs know what the heck I'm talking about, because you'll sit and you'll play thousands of hours in an MMO over its lifetime and not bat an eye. And then we hop in a game like these looter shooters, and they've got grinds, but nowhere near what, say, a WoW or world, the PC MMO game realm is. So I hope that they continue to make these not really one-off games, but the side-scrollers and the games that are interactive and have fun, because sometimes gamers need a break from the grind, and they want to play their backlog, and they need some good games to go and play in their backlog.
Yeah, and I see Ori being either the one that you really enjoy as far as visually, story-wise. It's just a good game to play, and I see the next one being that.
For sure.
So, talking about MMOs, though, is an excellent segue into our next conference. That was Bethesda.
Bethesda. I just like saying the name Bethesda.
Bethesda.
Just say it slowly, like Bethesda.
Yeah, excellent choice of name there for that company.
What
I have to say,
a list of games.
Yeah, like really every single one that there was some out there that people like, I don't like this, and I think that was like when they were starting to talk about the mobile games that they were releasing. But companies are being smart, and they know there's an audience for mobile games on phones. And whether we like it or not, some people don't have consoles, some people don't have PCs. So companies are making stuff for them, and there's audience that are watching it.
So speaking of that, I watched a pretty interesting documentary on Sony and Sega and a couple of these other companies, specifically around some Japanese companies. And gaming's huge in that market for sure, but because of space limitations, that's really what this show was talking about. And I can't think of the name of it, but it was talking about the space limitations in people's apartments and their homes and power consumption. And because they're so busy in their everyday life, because they're usually always on the go, the mobile gaming has really kind of picked up in that Asian market over in Japan, China, and a few of the other countries out there because they don't have time to sit down in front of a actual Xbox or PlayStation to play some of these games. So the things like the Switches and your mobile enacted games have become pretty big out that way.
Yeah, and Bethesda showed two, if not more, games for mobile. They of course they have the Elder Scrolls Legend, that card game that was the competition to Hearthstone.
Mm-hmm. Well, and just by saying the name Elder Scrolls means there's a huge community that's going to follow that game already.
Oh, sure, absolutely. And then they even went and announced another kind of a click point and click type mobile game with Elder Scrolls Blades.
Mm-hmm.
It looked interesting to play. I don't think I'll pick it up and play it, but it was definitely one I could see people getting behind.
Yeah.
On a mobile platform. But besides talking about those, every other console games, PC, and these will probably come to PC. They had an answer for every one of their fan base, every single one. They started out with, we knew it was coming because Walmart Canada spoiled it. And I love that little tease there that they did right off the bat. That was great.
That was really good.
Shots fired. But Rage 2, and this is the only bad thing about that conference, and maybe it was people were loving it because they know about that rocker, but having that focus of a live music play right there where they focused on that instead of showing the game, I think was the only miss for Bethesda. I think if they had instead incorporated it into the game itself and showed gameplay while going back and forth between gameplay and the rocker, would have been a much better flow to that.
Yeah, I think
that sequence.
I think it pulled so much attention away from what people, because I really do genuinely think people were excited for Bethesda. I think out of the entire conference, there was more excitement in what Bethesda showed from some of the other big conferences that were there, and I think that one miss kind of hurt them.
Yeah. Personal opinion there, but and some people I've seen have different opinions across the Twitterverse and social medias, but Rage 2 starting off that conference was a game that people have said I've never played the original, but I really want the successor, and they're really taking up the wild aspect and kind of going the whole dial it up to 11, where it's just crazy. There's a whole lot of madness and chaos going on, really channeling that Mad Max feel to it, but adding a little bit of Borderlands on top.
Post-apocalyptic insanity. Absolutely.
Yep. Yeah, so...
well, and it's open world as well.
Yep. It definitely takes after the original game, Rage, which had good gameplay. It had a good, you get different loot, you get different gear, and you can kind of level up yourself, the RPG aspect to it. I hope they keep that going with Rage 2 and really harness that insanity that's we've seen in the trailers in the gameplay now, and keep that going throughout into when it releases. So
yeah, it's been a long time coming. The original game came out in 2007 from ID. Yeah. If that takes you back down memory lane.
In software,
Yep.
So that kicked it off, and then we moved right into, we knew it has happened. We were going to hear more about it. We saw a trailer for it in the Microsoft conference, but that was Fallout 76. We finally were told what it is instead of just it's instead of a true successor to what we've seen in Fallout 3, Fallout 4, it takes place earlier in the years of the Fallout universe, and it is I almost an MMO. I'm gonna say it's almost. It's
Almost.
Fallout with multiplayer.
It's a good hybrid for sure.
Yeah.
Well, and out of all the games that we've talked about, I think it probably has the earliest release date so far. I believe it comes out November of this year.
Yes, absolutely it does. Uh, and that's the way Bethesda's always ran. They have either one game, November 14th. So everybody get ready. And they always do
Definitely
that
get
with the
ready.
Fallouts. They announce it and they say, hey, it's coming out tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I was like,
This
whoa,
one,
okay.
yeah, let me get right on that. This
Yeah.
one this one is so much bigger than what 4 was. I never
Yep.
I never picked up 4. I really wanted to. It looks like it would be an amazing game. I'm sure I'd still have fun playing it, but I've got so many other things in my backlog. I just never grabbed it. But I remember Bethesda talking about how big the game was. They said if you're going to compare it, then they said this is 4 to 5 times larger than what Fallout 4 was.
Which is huge.
In
I mean,
freaking sane. I watching the videos of people tromp around Fallout 4 was like, oh dear Jesus, are you ever going to make it to the other side of this landmass that you're crossing right now? And if you compare Fallout 4 to this, they're saying 4 to 5 times larger. That's why we're saying MMO. If you think MMO, you think, all right, we're talking world scale, and you've got 3,000 kilometers to travel on whatever vehicle it is, and literally, if you're looking at your watch, it's going to take you the next 2 hours to get there. That's probably how big this game is really going to be. I think it's going to be overwhelming, honestly, when you get in. I think Fallout has always, always, always done a really good job with incorporating their story and making the game so interactive with the characters that it just kind of sucks the player in. And I hope they've continued that theme and not made it so large that they've lost that quality.
yeah, I completely agree. And with it being, I still don't know how I feel about them taking what we are basically seeing as a Fallout 4 architecture and creating it to be an MMO only, or this online experience only. I don't know how I feel about that. But with that said, I can see the great appeal to it. And everybody's always wanted to do multiplayer Fallout. Having your buddy come in, and this time it could be random people, and there could be rival towns, and they even outright said, hey, if you happen to come across a nuke, you could launch that nuke at your neighbor and take them out, or something like that. But I hope in them allowing that, they don't take away of the RPG customization that we saw in Fallout 4. They may have to tune it down just a little bit, but not too much that it doesn't take away from the characteristics that we've come to enjoy of that game.
Yeah, there's lots of memorable things. You know, the Coke. I mean, just every little nuance that Fallout had in it, down to basically the way the characters looked, the feel of the game. Out of all the post-apocalyptic games, I think Fallout has definitely done the best at keeping across the board and just really giving it that feel. So I hope they keep that, kind of make that nostalgic for the players.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see how they do since every Fallout game before this point has always gone later in the timeline, and so you've been able to kind of have an increase in technology per se, but now we're jumping to one of the first vaults that opened in the story. Talk about the story here. So it'd be interesting to see how we incorporate that into not having all our technology that we're used to that has been developed over the time. We may have some returning bad guys that we've seen from that's another thing. I really hope they have some good story in this, not just a open world. There's stories you can go on, there's missions you need to do, and not go on and experience together with your group, with your town, with your settlement to experience in the Fallout universe.
Yeah, yeah. I hope they do a good job with it. I hope the community receives it well and enjoys it, and I hope them the best success. I was never one of the bigger community fans of Fallout, though I've played a lot of the games. The community for Fallout is really really large.
Yes, extremely, and very, very passionate about their games.
Oh, extremely passionate.
Yeah, I mean they're right up there. Anybody about Bethesda, they have announced Skyrim now on what 6 different times, and I bet you there's people out there, including myself, that have bought that game numerous times over because it is a great game. Or Fallout, as the systems come out that they announced for, oh, all right, gonna have to get it for that system too, because
Yeah, we literally just bought it for the Switch last year when Skyrim was released. Then my wife had never played the Skyrim series, and she jumped into it and was kicking everybody's tushes and was way better at the game than I was on the Switch. So I just kind of gave up on trying to play it.
yeah. But yeah, the Bethesda has that following.
They do.
So they'll be able to really captivate on this one as long as they keep nailing the games as they have, uh, and providing to the customer as they have been. They like we said, they really covered all their bases with all their games. For those out there, the Doom followers, they had Doom Eternal, which is apparently a sequel or DLC to the Doom game, which is so good.
It is.
And
It's
a
really good.
great remastering of that game, that older game.
Well,
They
and
announced the DLC.
yeah, they announced Wolfenstein as
Yep.
well.
Yep.
So, two of the original first person shooters that came to PC long, long ago. The Doom remake, I made it about 65% of the way through the game and never picked it back up. So I've got to go back and finish that. And Wolfenstein was one of those where I think the game was always fun and it was cool to play, but it seemed there over the last few years to kind of get repetitive. So I just kind of stopped investing in that type of game. It's okay to have that nostalgic feel. And this is just my personal thought. Doom and Wolfenstein are some of the original first person shooters that we ever had. And it's cool that they're still here, but you can only dig a hole so deep before you finally reached what seems to be the same hole. And I think Wolfenstein is long past that hole. They have dug and dug and dug and dug, and it just seems to be the same content for me. Now, the Doom remake, I will definitely invest in it. I think they've done an amazing job with the story, the gameplay, the action, the suspense, the holy crap, this thing jumped out and I just flew out of my chair. Don't play Doom with the lights off and headphones on. I screamed like a little girl one night playing this game. I had to turn the lights on and bring family into the room. I'm like, whoa, hold up.
Talk about, and right there with you, talking about scary games, they did announce the DLC for Prey, which I've completely beat and thoroughly enjoyed the game, but that was another one where it was the scare factor was up to 11 just because of how that game plays. The DLC, though, the concept of it, I'm not too keen on. I'll probably pick it up and play it, but I was hoping more for a continuation of the story that we saw in Prey instead of a different area of Prey that is a kind of a rehash.
So I played the original Prey. I never played Prey 2. Now, as far as the scare factor, yes, Prey is definitely one of the top games out there. As far as the gameplay, I wasn't too impressed with what I saw for this DLC. We'll see what happens. I don't really know if people were that excited for another Prey game. The community, I don't know if it's really even that big for this game anymore. It's one of those where when Prey came out, amazing, people jumped all over it. They loved the scare factor. And then there was quite the time lag in between it and the second one. And the second one kind of got a little bit of attention with the streamers and the YouTubers, and it seemed to kind of drop off pretty quick. So I'm curious to see how this one will pick up.
Yeah. Well, and it didn't have the I mean, to if you're a completionist, it definitely had the replayability for it, but the completely customizability that has been in other Bethesda games like Fallout, like Elder Scrolls, to keep you coming back, to keep you wanting to do more. Once you, I mean, unless you're in it for the achievements, once you beat the story, that was it. I mean, you were done. Very, very well done. I mean, I enjoy this story thoroughly, but I don't know if I plan on going back and playing it. Just maybe to, complete my achievements.
Yeah, with me only playing the first game, I don't even know where they went to the second one. I'm definitely not going to pick it up. I'll just leave it as is. I'll watch some videos, see what other people think of it.
And then I mean, Bethesda kept, besides this Prey DLC, hitting all their stops along the way, they ended the night with, they're like, okay, now we're done. Oh, just kidding. Elder Scrolls 6. Everybody was screaming it. They were trying to scream it the entire time he was talking about any other game out there. The chat for any live stream you were looking at just kept saying, hey, release Elder Scrolls 6, and they announced it. That's all they did. They showed a video, some cinematic of it. Didn't even show any story people. Just showed a landscape and said Elder Scrolls 6, which for myself that has put so many hours into Skyrim on multiple different systems is fantastic. And I know everybody out there they didn't care. Elder Scrolls 6, okay, I'm happy.
Pretty sure everybody said, yep, doesn't matter what it is or how many hours I'm going to have to play it. I'm just going to pay for it, buy it, and continue to play it. I'll end up getting it. The amount of hours that I put into Skyrim, I really don't even know. There's a crap ton of them over the years in the different consoles. The landscape and the story of that game is ridiculously beautiful. That's the best way I can describe it.
And they really, Bethesda kind of hinted at this. Microsoft confirmed it. Microsoft confirmed that they're already working on next gen. That's all they said. They're just working on next gen. That's it. But in how Bethesda revealed some of the stuff they talked about, it kind of gave the hint that they're really aiming at next generation of gaming. Whatever that will take form of, but Elder Scrolls 6 just having a cinematic trailer saying we're in development. That's going to be a couple years out. Okay. They announced the surprise new reveal. It's been rumored that people have heard they're working on some kind of sci-fi space game, Starfield. We saw again just as vague as Elder Scrolls 6. Saw a space station in space around a random planet, Starfield, and that was it.
That was pretty much it.
Because it was coming from Bethesda, it's going to be good.
Yeah, I think with Bethesda keeping the mystery up and not really previewing too much of the game, yeah, I think people are pretty excited for it. The level of excitement for me, we'll see. I don't know. That's another one of those where I don't really know a whole lot about it yet. I know they've wanted to work on it and publish it for a long time. So I'm always kind of leery of those type of games too, especially when the company comes out and goes, man, we've been working on this for years and we're finally here. Well, what the crap has taken you so long then? What kind of bugs and issues and money problems and PR problems have you been going through that's taken you, and what kind of roadblocks? What's all this stuff? So that's how my mind functions when people come out and go, yeah, it's taken us a long time, but here's this new game that we want you to buy.
Right. Apparently a game they've been working on for years. But I don't know. I have high hopes for it because it is Bethesda so far. Everything they release is very true and nails the audience. Very true to the audience that they're going to release and nails the content. With minor hiccups along the way. So I think they ended that good note. They covered it across the globe with what they did. And some say even best of, giving Bethesda the best of show.
Yeah, I would say probably best of show. They were top two for sure.
So moving on from Bethesda, we now go to Ubisoft with the little hiccup that was the trailers of Square Enix.
That's so funny.
I mean, they put all their cards on the table in other people's conferences. I mean, the game that they're looking at the most from this company is the, people really want to know more about the remaster of Final Fantasy VII. Didn't even mention it. And the two that we did see that people are looking forward to, Shadow of the Tomb Raider and Kingdom Hearts 3, we just saw the exact same rehash that we saw in Microsoft. Although they were still by themselves good, the conference itself was just trailers.
Yeah.
I mean, and some talking, that was it.
That was it. It was pretty sad. It was a very bad showing. It really was. Yeah. And they had some amazing games to show off, but it just was not executed very well at all.
Yeah. Completely agree. And, from there, jump right into Ubisoft, which has several games people have been wanting to know about more since they've been talked about. We heard about one of them last year at E3, Skulls and Bones, which was talked about at the same time we had Sea of Thieves released, although Sea of Thieves has already been released. People are now starting to compare Skull and Bones to that game and how it operates and everything. I think it's much more, I see it taking a much more Assassin's Creed Black Flag feel, and taking that warfare to a 10.
I'm not a Sea of Thieves fan. It was fun, but I didn't really care for it overall. The Skull and Bones, it has this lifelike feel, or the way it looks anyways, to it, and seems to be a lot darker. So it doesn't have that kiddie graphical aspect. And it doesn't matter what you do in a game, when you make a game look like that, it's hard to take it serious. It's like Fortnite for me. Fortnite's fun, but man, it's so hard for me to get serious in that game. It's just goofy looking. It really is.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And go back to Sea of Thieves. That's kind of how they were really putting it off to you. It's going to be fun pirate time, So, but it has potential, Skull and Bones. We saw another fight of ships and how you can immediately turn on one another to get some more loot, but to be able to really encompass that, they need story, they need quests. You need to be able to have, they can really pull it off. They have fully customizable ship, which they talked about it a little bit, but they really need to just dial it up to 11 to keep people coming back to play it. If they have, microtransactions for extra cosmetics of the ship, people actually want to show off their ships. So I really think they have to do that to be able to keep Skull and Bones after release alive.
Completely agree. I think if they want a chance, have a chance, then they've definitely got to do that for sure.
Yeah. Moving on from there, talk about two games that really encompass the rest of Ubisoft, and that was Division 2 and Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Division 2. Oh, the things we could talk about. So,
for one, please stop it with the voiced over gameplay.
Oh,
that is not how we talk to each other when we're out there trying to take over a zone.
So terrible. They did that with the original game as well. You could have shut everybody's faces during that preview, and it would have made the game 100 times better. Nobody goes, oh, look, there's a bad guy coming at me. You go to my left, and you flank him, and oh, I'll shoot this guy. Nobody does that while they're playing a video game. Come on.
No, yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think that besides showing off how really gorgeous Division 2 looked.
Oh, it looks freaking amazing.
They would have been able to nail it if they had just put real players, like let people, maybe even the action of those 4 players would have been absolute pro, but the conversation there would have been from the player perspective. All right, talk about the bad guy using using your gear, not as the person being the character in the game,
Right.
but as a player.
Yeah.
Then they would have really nailed that, but had to do that.
Yeah. The whole portion of the game that we got to see, very pretty, looks cool. It's moving to Washington D.C., so I think that's going to be an interesting aspect to see how they bring that portion in. If they make the same mistakes that they did in Division 1, it will be an absolute waste of money. People will be super disappointed. So, Ubisoft, I hope you learn from your mistakes of Division 1 and will bring a game to the table that will actually be functional and fully set, and not this, oh, well, we wanted to do this, but now we've kind of changed our mind and we didn't really know what we wanted to do in the beginning. So we kind of made this stuff up as we went. If they do that, I think they're going to lose all players for Division. I don't think people are going to stick around.
Yeah. I mean, the Division game was one that, it started strong, but people got through it very quickly and they're like, okay, what now?
Yeah, it fizzled. It fizzled big time.
People started seeing the redundancy of, the stuff that you did, but then they fixed themselves after the first DLC. The last couple that they released free to people, I think.
I'm pretty sure they were
free.
free. I'm pretty sure the last few were free and definitely redeemed themselves. I will say that.
Yeah. Yeah, people were going from other games that they've been playing with people, multiplayer games, back to Division to play it, and they were having a fun time.
And people are still streaming it too.
Yeah, absolutely. So they need to keep with that. They're already starting strong with the environment that they portrayed of DC, the rebuilding of after this post-apocalyptic virus that happened. But one thing I hope they do is continue to capitalize on the different environments. That's one thing that turned me off about the Division. It was always in the city, and it was really always the same. You had skyscrapers walking through the streets. Skyscraper was walking. Oh, we got to go underground. Okay,
well, and it was always snowing.
Always, yes, it was always snowing.
It's been snowing in New York for 3 years, guys.
Absolutely. So it looks like they're capitalizing on that in having different environments. I hope they have much more than what we saw, not just a city, not just an open area, but you go into these different areas, you explore all about DC, an area, for one, the area needs to be huge for you to go through.
Huge, and it needs to be more interactive. You need to be able to get into vehicles. You need to be able to explore more buildings. I think that was the original intent for the first one, was to make it more open world like that. But it was very limited. I mean, there was only a handful of buildings that you were able to go into for the first one. And even once you got inside the building was even limited. So I hope they open that aspect up. I would really like them to see if we could get a vehicle in the Division 2 to, maybe putt around a little bit. Just give me a block or so that I could drive a vehicle and not have to run everywhere in the Division. Right. That would be amazing.
Some kind of transportation.
Give me I will take a bicycle. I'll shoot some bad guys with a bicycle. I'll grab the AR-15 and I'll go old school. I'll pedal with my feet and I'll shoot bad guys as I'm driving down the street in a bicycle.
Yeah. Or if they modify the fast travel to be more where you don't think you need that anymore. You're still traveling on foot because transportation has basically been knocked out because of the virus or whatever it is and the fall of civilization. But, and really doing a good fast travel system so they don't have to.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And then Assassin's Creed Odyssey. That's another one.
This is Spartan Creed.
This is Spartan. Yep. You want to know what the game's going to be like? It's going to be Roman everything. It's going to be lots of Spartan soldiers, Roman war, cladly looking men that have thongs on with shields and swords. That's what the game is going to consist of.
Yeah, It's gonna be. People have called it out, and I I don't know how I feel about it, but they're really going away from the whole assassins part that we started the Assassin's Creed with and went through, and they kept going, and they got away from it a little bit, but enough to us go and not notice in Origin. Uh, but it really looks like they're going away from it in Odyssey. It's no longer Assassin's Creed. It's the Creed
Yeah.
Odyssey.
Well, and the one thing that they did right in Assassin's Creed Origins was explaining the story of how the Brotherhood was created. So, with the time era that you were in and the limited knowledge of how to fight in that style, I completely agree with the way they did the game. The two main characters in the game, the love that they had for one another, the story, the atmosphere, how the emblem for the Brotherhood was even created. It was absolutely amazing. This game, I will say personally for me, not even going to pick it up. It does not look like anything that I want because, like you said, they're getting away from the assassins portion of the game, and that was the entire draw to this genre. The assassins were this mysterious, they kind of had this shadowy cabal to them, and now they're just taking time eras and capitalizing on money gains. That's all they're doing.
And we're not talking about Unity or Syndicate or anything like that. No.
Chronicles. Talk about
Yeah.
a terrible game.
Yeah. We'll see. It looks like, they've taken the assassin out of it, but they're incorporating different things about RPG like they did. They're moving more into what they did in Origins, and now they're having dialogue. Like, what in the world?
Yeah, this is the
dialogue.
It's the first time in an Assassin's Creed game that you will ever have dialogue. That's going to be an interesting play on this game. I think it's going to throw the players for a loop.
And we can't leave Ubisoft with talking about the game that nobody played the sequel to, but is completely excited about, or no, the first one too, but excited about the sequel just because they've released it in the modern generation, Beyond Good and Evil 2.
Yeah.
So they've released trailer, they've teased us with it, they've released more cinematic trailers, and they showed a little bit, just a tiny bit of what the gameplay is, and even when it showed, it said this is alpha. So
that means there's going to be a lot of changes happen once it finally releases.
Yes.
That's
what we saw.
Yeah, that's what that means. And then, real quick, if you guys didn't catch it, Star Fox is going to be back on a Switch exclusive playable. He's going to be a character in the new game Starlink. Didn't know if you guys caught that, but
yeah.
Old Star Fox is coming back. I would love to have the Star Fox game again. That was one of my favorites back in the day. But he is going to be a playable character for Starlink. I don't know how I really feel about the game. I don't know if having Star Fox as a playable character is enough to draw my attention towards that or not. Honestly, it did not look that good.
Yeah, it was an interesting addition, kind of an RPG ship battle game in what we've always wanted a true Star Fox game to be. It kind of stinks that we have to get it on the Switch to get Star Fox. I get it, Nintendo. Yes, I know. But I think without him, I don't know how that game will be.
Trash.
I'm just gonna call it just trash.
Hashtag trash.
Yeah, or maybe it's Ubisoft's answer to what we've seen throughout the years, in that the collectible little figures for the game, you have to buy them and it gets you to unlock stuff. And whether they go that route or not, they hinted at it with that little figure that they announced.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do with it. All in all, I was not very excited about Ubisoft. The only game that I was excited about was The Division 2. I'll end up picking up the game because I loved The Division, and even with all its mistakes, but the rest of them were pretty much a no-go for me.
So moving on from Ubisoft, we then moved on and waited with bated breath on how Sony would answer what Microsoft did. And starting off, everybody's kind of like, what are we doing? We're in a church. What's going on here? Because they had all the VIPs of E3, the content creators, the YouTubers, all those that create stuff for these events that are invited to E3, all come out and be in this barn that they've stood up. And even when they showed the live stream, they were kind of wondering, what did we have technical difficulties? Did we have to move everybody? And what was going on? And even they announced it. And guys, I get it, but why have a live player that plays a song for a long time without the context? You just have gameplay, have something that entitles it to be that. But finally, they released the trailer of Last of Us Part 2. And then it all came together. And I have to say, that was a good hook. Good hook there. People are in the environment of the game itself and transitioned right into it.
Amazing hook. I am skeptical at best. Well, one, I won't play the game because I don't have a PS. So, but I do say that Sony came out pretty good as far as the conference goes. A few awkward moments in their setting and baiting people. A lot of people, once that kind of took place, were looking at one another like, what is going on right now? But all in all, I think they did a pretty good job at the conference. They Sony overall, I would say, probably took third in the conference with what they brought to the table. I think they had some hiccups overall, but I would probably give them third.
Yeah. Besides, and this is the biggest complaint of everybody out there that's watching the Sony conference, besides the live performers, which that was everybody, is that intermission period where they tried to fill it with like people talking about their own company.
That was terrible.
It felt really, really out of place. After that strong start of Last of Us Part 2 and showing how brutal the game is going to be even more, and then they go right into intermission.
Yeah.
No, keep it going. We know you have good games. You could have gone right into them.
Build the hype and then you kill it.
Yeah, just right there. Just took it right out from under. Now, I bet the people on site, they actually had a good time because it showed that they walked through and they had an experience as they moved to the next area. But for those watching the live stream, which is millions of people, it felt really awkward.
Yeah,
really awkward.
Extremely. So yeah, Last of Us Part 2 looked amazing though.
Yeah, it did. Completely. I'm right there with you. I don't have PlayStation 4. Probably won't ever play it, but I completely agree. And I've seen the gameplay of Last of Us, and this one looks just as good to keep you hooked, to keep you going throughout the game.
Spider-Man looked amazing.
I have to say, it's the Spider-Man we've been waiting on. There's been a lot of just flops of Spider-Man. There's been some okay ones.
Sounds like the movies.
Yeah, right? But this one looks, and everybody is saying it, those that got to play some of the gameplay, it just so smooth. This is what web slinging is supposed to feel like. I hope they really capitalize on what you can do with Spider-Man. Maybe you unlock stuff for him. I'm all about the RPG stuff, but maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe they just go with the story and they really utilize that, but they got to have, and maybe they bring in the same villains, or maybe they modify them just a bit to keep them interesting.
I would like to see a mix. I would like to see some of the originals, change them, however, update them, and then do some new stuff as well. I think that would be a fun mix for everybody.
So, Spider-Man, if I had a PlayStation, I'd get that one, Last of Us Part 2. And then there was the one they all wanted answers on just because it was so far out there in what we've seen about it, and even that small trailer we saw last year. And Sony did not disappoint in still leaving us with questions about Death Stranding.
The trailer for that game was bonkers. It had babies in it. It had skeletons. It had crazy space monsters. It had Daryl from The Walking Dead. It was just really far out there.
Yeah. And we can assume we saw gameplay. I'm pretty confident saying that was gameplay we saw, but we still have no idea what this game is about or what we're going to do. We know for a fact we're going to carry boxes and possibly dead people.
That is about
We know that.
all we know.
There's been a lot of people say it, and I noticed this too. Sony revealed that Death Stranding is what our character would look like in a true RPG when it actually showed all the gear we're carrying. Because sometimes, there was a lot of boxes on the back of those guys as they walk through some wilderness random area. So, I think they're capitalizing this really, and the guy behind the idea of Death Stranding, they're really capitalizing it, keep this mystery, this like, what did I just watch, and bringing the hype to it of what this game could be.
Yeah, I think the mystery behind it is amazing. So I'm curious to see what they do with it. Curious to see how the community reacts to it. It has a big actor in it that they did, live action with, which is Daryl from The Walking Dead. So I'm curious to see how, he kind of hypes the game up as well.
Yeah. So I'm right there with you. I think besides that intermission issue, they came out strong with they were definitely really strong in their exclusives of their console, of letting the developers for their exclusives really just take off with them, make good games, and so far it's delivering and really really strong. So that's one thing they've held over Microsoft in their exclusives. Microsoft came out and just showed games. They did what PlayStation did 2 years ago and just showed games. Yep. Here's all your games for everybody. So I think again, besides the intermission, very strong conference.
Yeah, very. The game that really stood out for me for Sony was the Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah.
A little weird with the guy standing on stage playing the flute before the game preview really started. That was a little awkward. It seemed to take away from what was on screen. But the gameplay transition from the trailer, well, it wasn't even really a trailer. It was the game engine that you got to see sweeping across the field. And then the transition that went into the Ghost of Tsushima with the samurai walking up the hill with his horse. Oh my goodness, it was beautiful.
Oh yeah. Really good looking game. Besides what we saw of some of the combat, don't really know a whole lot about it, of what's going to entail in that. It's always interesting when they try to pull off feudal Japan and what happened in their time, this alternate history time period. So, we'll see. I hope we get to see more of that soon, so we can start getting a good idea about that and really following it. But being that exclusive, I'll probably never play it. But I hope for the sake of those that will get it, it'll be a good game.
Yeah.
And last but not least, one that, for the sake of the Switch, people have been waiting with bated breath for is Nintendo's conference.
Oh, Nintendo.
And they could easily just swapped out that conference. Instead of saying Nintendo, it was the Smash conference. People were, they announced it. People were talking about it. Metroid Prime 4 was announced last year. Didn't say anything about it. They didn't say nothing about their 3DS line. Absolutely nothing.
Yeah,
about
zero.
Games coming to it. They covered some Pokemon. People were excited about actually having an open world kind of
Pokemon on the go.
On the go, really really strong Pokemon game that's for the Switch. What they still said is in development. They've going to release 2 games that are going to work alongside Pokemon Go. So it'll be interesting how those are both unique, but then also keeping the next Pokemon Pokemon game for the Switch also different than those two that they just released.
Yeah.
So that was a small tidbit, and then we had the next, 25 or the first 25 minutes of the conference was all about Super Smash Brothers.
It was all Super Smash Brothers. That was it.
All Super Smash Brothers. And most, maybe I won't say most, but those that have Nintendo, like me, have got that Nintendo because of Smash.
Yeah.
I've done that since the GameCube, waited either in preparation for or right alongside when Smash released, whatever version that was, I got the console for it. I got the game for it.
Yep, same here. I originally started on the GameCube and have just progressed since.
Yeah.
So, yeah, very exciting. They did say that the ultimate version of this one will have all of the previous characters from the game's history. So that's pretty exciting.
Which is huge. I mean, the selection of people in the Wii U version of Smash is massive, especially with all the DLC that they've released. But now saying everybody's coming back, plus 3 new additions.
Yeah.
You have the 2 Inkling boy and girl, which we knew that was coming from last year's trailer. But then they said, and I never felt one way. I'm a huge Metroid fan, but apparently there was a group of people out there that wanted Ridley to come and be part of the Smash universe.
Yeah, so Ridley's coming.
Yeah. So I don't feel good or bad about that. Great. But man, I don't know how I'm going to feel when I get to that character selection tree and see like 65 different choices.
It's going to take me 30 minutes to figure out which one I want to play with.
So it's going to be huge. And then on top of that, I guarantee they're going to release DLC characters.
Oh, absolutely they will. Just like they have. They've done that with every game that they've had so far. So.
Which hats off to them for including, I assume, they definitely made it sound like that all the characters that have been DLC are going to be just by base in the game at launch.
Yeah.
You have Bayonetta's, you have Cloud in there, so all those that were DLCs of the Wii U version.
Definitely exciting. So I think Nintendo will. And then you had Fortnite. They announced Fortnite is going to be available for the Nintendo Switch as well. And I know
like that day. It was like, oh, hey, go download it.
Oh,
go have fun.
By the way, this opened, and I know the Fortnite community went, what the what?
Yeah. And then that was an absolute fallout for Sony. Going back to let's talk about Sony again. Absolute fallout for Sony, and they're still trying to recover from it. The bad PR in that people that have been PlayStation gamers of Fortnite.
Yeah, Sony made a big boo-boo.
Well, why can't we? What's going on here? And Xbox guys, PC guys are like, I don't know what your problem is. I'm playing right now. Here's all my DLC, all my unlockables that I just spent hundreds of dollars on. Right here, I can still play it, and they're still fighting that, and it's becoming bad PR for Sony.
Sony burnt the bridge. I do not think that bridge is going to be rebuilt anytime soon.
Yeah.
So.
Which hats off to the developers of Fortnite and how they've done that game. They basically, hey, you want to play it? Good, here you go.
Yeah,
and proven that it's not it's not their problem that Sony's not cross-playing. They want people to cross-play. Go have fun.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, you're gonna have.
Yeah, the community, they love the game. They do.
Yeah.
It's a fun game. It really is, and has just swept the entire nation and world with lots and lots and lots of hours of streaming.
So many hours.
Yes, so many hours.
Yeah. And currently it is still king of our streaming universe out there between Twitch and Mixer and now Facebook stream is coming up, but it's still king out there. So hats off to Epic Games for just releasing a game. Hey, you're on mobile and you want to play with PC? Fine, go for it. You're going to be limited by the controls that you have, but if you want to, have at it.
Yeah, definitely hats off to them. They've done an amazing job, for sure.
That basically wraps up the conference. I'd wish they ended on a stronger note. I mean, Nintendo had a chance to capitalize on E3, and yes, they released a lot of Smash, but that was it.
Yeah, Nintendo doesn't know how to capitalize anymore. They really don't. They're such an old company. They have forgotten more about the gaming industry than what most gaming companies nowadays even know about the gaming industry. That's how old Nintendo is. And I don't know. I really hope for the Switch's sake they keep up to date and they get some people on their teams that can put a conference together and be exciting and be relevant again. They really do. They lack relevance right now.
Yeah, well, and they need to keep up. They've been going strong with the Switch release and the games on that, and they need to keep it going. So they're still confirmed. Hey guys, Metroid Prime 4 is coming.
Yeah.
And I don't know how long they expect Smash to hold them over. For how long? But they need to keep up with the releases for the Switch. Whether that means porting games over, really working with people to port games over to the Switch, or getting some more Nintendo content out.
Yeah. Yeah, I would like to see some more stuff come out for sure. I definitely think we've got a couple of really good mentions before we wrap everything up. Or I have at least one mention because I'm a Telltale Games fan. And that is the Walking Dead final season coming out. We get to learn about Clementine.
Yep.
She is now well into her later teen years and has definitely taken on a new role. So I'm very excited. That is definitely going to be a pre-order, and I will be playing the snot out of that game once it comes out.
And they also announced the Overkill's The Walking Dead, which also looked good.
It did. It looked really good.
Good capitalization. I don't know how that will combat with, or if it works against The Walking Dead's story games that you've now fallen in love with, but it looked really interesting to me.
Yeah, so the Telltale Games, they did a very smart marketing deal with their games. They don't really follow a lot of the comic books. They don't follow a lot of the stories. They basically got their copyrights from The Walking Dead and said, hey, this is what we want to do. And they pulled all their snippets together. So I think Telltale is safe zone. I don't think they've got anything to worry about from other games pulling away from their stories anytime soon.
Yep. All in all, I mean, we can call out different conferences of E3 as the winner, but I really think the winner of this E3, and has been said about different E3s before, was the gamer.
Definitely, this was the gamers conference. It really was. They, in previous years, I don't think there was much attention paid to the gamers at all. It was all about, look at what these companies are producing, look at what we want you to pay for. And this year was much different. And hats off to the gaming companies that are publishing games because they are recognizing what needs to change.
Well, guys, that's what we thought of this year's E3, how we thought about each conference. If you agreed with us, if you don't agree with us, definitely leave a comment down below. Love to discuss with you, and we'll definitely be looking forward to all the great games that we'll be releasing over this year and definitely into 2019. Follow us on all the social medias that we have in the description below. And as always, I'm Victus.
And I'm Detached, and we will see you guys in the next episode.